Welcome to the Bunny Hug Farmers Podcast.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. You're listening to the Bunny Hug Farmers Podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Janin. I'm here with your co-host, Dallas LeDuc. We're having a ton of fun doing these. We got a special guest lined up tonight. We're kind of going a little bit of a different angle than we normally go. But Dallas, what have you been up to lately?
It's been cold, so we hauled some grain and actually watching a lot of Olympics and doing, actually, when it's 30 below, as little as humanly possible. Waddle my way to the shop once in a while, and that's about it.
I wish I was as lucky as you. I have many cows. I'm not going to say the number, but there's many cows in my yard that need attention every day. I guess it keeps me out of trouble, and it does keep me out of the bar, but I got a wife and kids too, so they also help keep me out of the bar.
Great. No. So should we just dive into this guest? Because we got a special guest for you folks, and he's on a limited time schedule, and we just managed to make this all work. So I got to introduce Chace Barber. He is the president, CEO, co-founder, and a whole bunch of other titles for Edison Motors.
Hey, Dallas. Thanks for introducing me there. Excited to be on here.
You have made quite the name in a lot of the trucking industry right now for what you've done, starting off with old Carl and retrofitting an old truck and then coming up with all the new ones and all that stuff. How did you get to where you are with, starting off with hauling logs and saying, we should build an electric hybrid truck?
Well, it's just one of those ones where one good idea led to another good idea and led to it. So we're looking at that old Tesla Semi, and a lot of people were writing that off. Well, like, it doesn't make sense. You're never going to get a Tesla Semi out into the bush. And I'm like, you guys aren't looking at the whole thing. You've got all that regenerative braking. As you're coming down, those electric motors recharge the batteries, and we're going up the hill empty, and then we're getting loaded at the top of the mountain because, we got mountains in BC. I know it's probably a little bit harder for the Saskatchewan, Manitoba boys to understand, but you go up to the top, empty, you load these logs, and then you hold all the weight back of the truck as you come down the hill, and you recharge the batteries. And you're like, man, that sure makes sense. And then we were looking at the sawmill, and Aspen Planers has a big Laterno, which Laterno, basically, really fascinating story. Highly recommend that like, if you're listening, go check out the story of R.J. Laterno. But this guy back in the 1960s started all these diesel electric equipment. And the sawmill we were running into, they had a Laterno from 1967, 1971, 1973. And these Laterno log loaders were still unloading 200-300 trucks a day, 50 years old. They're super efficient, they're super reliable, and they have a diesel generator with electric motors. They got electric hub motors, electric drive for their cable assembly to move their arm, lift the logs. And it's really efficient. Freight trains have been the same way. Really, freight trains went diesel electric in the 90s. And you know what? 1940s, 90s, and you never see a mechanical drive train. They're all electric. Every freight train's electric because the power and the torque of electric is insane. Same thing as I was hauling some low bedding into drilling rigs. Drilling rigs were the same thing. I don't think anyone's seen a mechanical drive drilling rig since the 1990s. Really, they've been phased out. They've all went electric. Drilling rigs are electric, and they have a generator. So looking at it, you're like, well, heck, we got all that technology. I'm trying to listen to your rules and not swearing, but that was not the words we used when we said it. Heck, we looked at it, and you're like, we got a heck ton of power as we're coming down these hills that we could recharge these batteries, and in a log truck driver, I could use a heck ton of power to get this truck moving. So just looked at the old Laterno, looked at the Tesla Semi, and we thought, well, why don't we build our own electric truck? I'll just build my own electric truck, but I'll put a generator on it. How hard could it be? And that's what we did. I mean, turns out it's very hard. It's very, very hard. But we built the very first prototype, and we kind of showed that off. That was that 1962 Kenworth that we put a 3306 cat into it with a generator. And we ripped the guts out of a Tesla, and we put a Tesla driveline, and we built that, and we showed that it worked, and we could build an electric truck that moved. And then we took what we learned there, and we built our own electric truck, and we showed it off to a few partners, and we're like, hey, do you want one? And they're like, absolutely, we do. And we built the prototype now, and now we got a couple of them out there. One's going through a big test down in Nevada right now. That's been pretty exciting. Another one's been delivered in Toronto. One's we've been just testing and updating on our own property here. And we got another 2 in the queue. Oh, and then one that also is down at I forgot about that one bus we did, but that's a one-off project.
That's very interesting. You actually had a Tesla Semi on order, and was that part of your motivation, the time frame of that not coming, that pushed you to go towards the direction you've gone?
Yeah, I reserved it when they released the Tesla Semi because I'm like, I'm so sold on logging. It makes so much sense. And I reserved it. And I think I was the number 4 person to like reserve it in Canada, according to the number they told us. Because it's like, or reservation number was like CA000004. And we were looking at it and you're like, oh man, it sure doesn't work. And you're like, okay, well, we'll just take the axles and the drive line and we'll just take those axles and drive line out of the Tesla Semi and I'll just put her into like a Kenworth. And we're like, we could just probably take the whole guts out of it and we're to modify this and starting to talk online. And you're like, oh, it makes sense for the electric, but if I did it, I would build it this way and this is how I'd do it. And then people said, why don't you build your own? And after waiting for 5 years for this truck, like, and their reservation was like, it was thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars to reserve this truck. And after waiting for like 5 or 6 years, I'm like, screw it, Elon, give me my money back. Give me that deposit back. And I'm going to use that deposit and I'm going to take that deposit and I'm going to use it to start my own company and I'm going to call it Edison Motors.
Stealing Tesla's ideas. I know you can't say it, but I'm sure I can.
That was the name when we came up with it, which was a good historical joke. Like, you got Thomas Edison. I'm sorry, Tesla, but you cannot, like, we called our company Edison Motors, and because our tagline was stealing Tesla's ideas, because people kept accusing Thomas Edison of stealing Nikola Tesla's ideas.
Yeah.
Sorry, Elon, but you cannot name your company after a famous historical figure and then not take a historical joke. That's not how it works. You can't steal somebody's name and then just be like, we don't want anything associated with that name.
And I don't think you're still the same. You're not stealing his ideas because you don't have planned obsolescence into your trucks.
No, I mean, but that was yeah, like we're so far past Tesla's idea of building an aerodynamic electric truck to run in California. We've now built this off-highway beast.
Yeah, which I think would have great applications out in the rural sector because we're an agriculture podcast. But my main hauling here is from my yard to our nearest inland grain terminal is 88 kilometers. I'm loaded up there for 88 kilometers with 550 horse used pretty frequently on the way up there, but coming home empty with an empty grain trailer using 200 horse. Well, maybe a C9 or a Scania power plant might be more efficient on my short haul than it would be because I have to be half empty hauling grain. Not too often you're back hauling fertilizer to the farm. So I keep thinking, well, so if you want to get one more test truck out there, Tyler and I might be able to put one to use for you on some shorter hauls.
There you go. Well, I mean, we're building a couple of prototypes that we could probably put out in use. Although the new, I'm not supposed to talk about it. Screw it. The new ones we're building, we're going to be building them with an X15.
Which, well, I've seen your videos. I mean, you have a massive social media presence, and I've been a fan of you right from back from the highway through hell, Mission Ridge towing days till now. So the X15 ones are just to get rolling and get trucks going out the doors. And some guys are going to want that big power 18-speed heavy diff trucks for long-term future use, especially out there in the logging world.
The one with the X15 with the mechanical, but
Yeah.
Okay, so I got real creative on this one. So we got the approval with the one I'm not supposed to talk about, but whatever. We're on your podcast, not mine, so I think we're fair. What we're doing now is we're working on the submission. I'm going to backdoor in because the X15 is on highway approval. And now we got approval to put the X15 into an 18-speed. So now I'm going to backdoor it and stick a generator on the back end of the next couple trucks and ram an X15 out because we've also got some customers that want the big power plant because we were looking at their use case and they're pulling 80 tons where the 9 liters is not going to handle moving 80-ton loads, like 100-ton gross trucks. You'd still need the big power plant or else you're going to be in a losing battle, especially if you're in the prairies or Alberta where you're not taking advantage of that regen and you're going hundreds of kilometers. Eventually your battery, you can get into a state. So we can get approval for the X15 for the mechanical. Now that we got that, now I got to stick the generator on, submit a generator approval and be like, we're going to try that and see how it goes. So I'm not supposed to talk about it because we don't have the approval yet and I don't want to get everyone's hopes up too much. But I think we can, like, now that we've done it with the normal one that they're used to, I'm going to try and go. And we've been Conrad, who is our programmer, and he's doing a fantastic job. Their thing was like, you can't play around with the ECM. You can't change how the ECM works. It has to stay how it's tested. And so we had to do it by just sending like throttle inputs, which is hard on it. And we've been having a hard time doing that and like doing the programming without changing it to a generator programming until Ray and Conrad had an idea. They're just like, it was a moment of frustration. Like, what happens? They're like, we're screwing around. What happens if we command negative torque on a motor? Because you can command throttle or torque. And you're like, what happens instead of commanding like 400 foot-pounds of torque? What if we command like negative 500 foot-pounds of torque? And then we're like, we'll see what happens. And it worked as a generator.
Huh, without screwing with the ECM.
Without screwing with the ECM. It somehow worked. I don't know why it worked. It shouldn't have worked, but we got that Cummins working without having to program it. But we just did that like last week, which means that we're like, sometimes the universe works in crazy ways. Is that I just got word that our Cummins X15 just arrived at the warehouse in Calgary. Now, we are doing that one with the 18 speed still because that's the way we're promised we'd do it. And that's the way we're going to go through the IQA process with Cummins. But if we can do that, then the next two trucks, I might be able to get that X15. And I'm going to try it, and I'm going to do some test benching and playing around and see if I can get the generator working. If I can get it with what Conrad figured out last week in that programming, that means that we can get the approval for Environment Canada. And then we could probably also apply that to the smaller 10-liter in the future. Hopefully we can get the hybrid with the Cummins, even if they won't approve the Scania for the off-road. So fingers crossed. It's not a guarantee. There's obviously still some risks involved in doing that, but it's at least like there's a goal in sight beyond just waiting for them to change the regulations, which they've told us they're working on. But I know you said we're going to stay out of politics for sure, but like I don't always trust politicians, and they're like, "Oh, we're totally going to do this. This is awesome, and we're going to support you 100%." And you're like, "Cool." When?
Well, that actually, we're going to get in politics a little bit because one of my questions is, how bad has the government been to deal with?
Oh, I got in trouble on a press con. That's why we sent Eric now to Ottawa, because they did a press conference, and one of our members of parliament in Ottawa asked me at the press conference. They're like, "Hey, Chace, how bad is the government and like Environment Canada to deal with?" And I was in this CBC, and they're doing the thing, and I'm like, "Well, dealing with the government makes me want to start a shotgun." And apparently you're not supposed to say that during a news broadcast.
No, a selfie with a shotgun is also not recommended.
Yeah. But that's about how I feel. They're very and the problem is the most frustrating part is that the guys at Environment Canada, the people that work there, they understand the benefits of the hybrid. They get that it's more fuel efficient. They get that it's a better engine, that there's lower emissions. You're running a smaller engine. You're running it at peak RPM. You're not lugging it down. It's better. You have regenerative. You're saving fuel. And they really get how it's a better system. But their hands are tied by these stupid rules that say like the generator engines can't power a truck. It needs to be an on-highway engine. And we're like, we can't. We need to change the ECM to make it program. Like, I don't know how to do this. We've been trying to command throttle, and it's not really working well with the generator. They're like, no, you can't use. So they know it's good. That's what's frustrating, is that they know it's better. We know it's better, but they won't let us build it because the government and the politicians, and you need to convince politicians that have no idea at all about trucks or about engines, why one engine makes sense and one engine doesn't. And they think on-highway rated just means that they're like, well, it's on highway, like it's on a highway, so it should be on-highway rated. And you're like, yes, but it's a generator, so we need to run generator emissions. And like, even if we get the Cummins working, it's still not going to be nearly as efficient as running the generator with a generator governor and a generator programming. Like, we're running an inefficient way to do it. We should still get some good fuel savings, but it's not going to be as efficient as if we did it properly.
I remember watching the video where you said, well, the generator passes emissions if it's sitting on the ground next to the truck. But as soon as it's 3 feet up and to the left, it don't pass emissions anymore because it's on highway. But yeah, very silly.
Yep, and that's exactly what they said. Or if we stopped, if the truck was not moving and the truck was stationary and not on the road, it would also be okay. If you lock the generator out to where your truck stopped and then you fired the generator up, recharge your batteries, and then started moving, as soon as it's moving, that's an issue. Now you're on the road. Now you're charging while going down the road. And you're like, is there some, not a scientist, but like I said, and I told them, and they get it. They 100% get it. But you're like, there's not a different atmosphere above a highway than above in the parking lot next to the highway. Like, what are you talking about? They're like, well, you could take this truck and it could be going in downtown Toronto. And like highways are near where people breathe, where we assume generators are going to be at a remote site. So we assume that a generator is going to be outside the city, but this truck could be in like downtown Toronto and driving around and people build the air. Like, we're building logging trucks. We're building trucks for farmers. We're building trucks for the oil and gas industry. Like, we're building trucks to do the. They're like, yeah, we
You
know.
can't get much more open than that.
Oh, trust me, they know how stupid it is, but they're like, yeah, but somebody like could buy it and then drive down to downtown Toronto.
Yeah, but I've been in
So?
downtown Toronto. I've seen
Oh.
garbage trucks go down there. I'm goddamn sure them garbage trucks are burning diesel.
Yeah, but they're burning diesel with one that where the little tag on the motor says on highway, so that's different diesel than the burning, and then you can breathe in that diesel exhaust, but you
Oh,
can't breathe
yeah.
in the. It's like I said, it
what we
makes
need
you.
to do is a study here, Chase. Is let's get a scientific device that can monitor the pollution levels
Yeah.
when
which will
those
be-
both them trucks are working under load, and let's see which one's going to produce less pollution.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's not lock anybody in any room.
No. Only thing we're gassing out is the crickets.
You know, the annoying thing is like, hey, can we just like get some data, like our thing? And you're like, no. We know all the data. Everything makes sense. We know. You're like, cool. So you're like, yeah, we've done the testing. When they showed us their big testing facility where they had the generators, they had truck engines, they run a generator. Like, we have all the data that shows this is better. But the politician hasn't made the rule that allow you to do it. We fully know we've done all the data. So the government of Canada has paid these guys millions and millions and millions of dollars. Like, they fund this program for actually billions of dollars. It's like billions of dollars that go into this program and testing, and the government pays to have all this information. And they have all the information that says, yeah, oh, well, this is better. Hybrid's better. And they made it so much that they know it's better to the point where the government mandated that by 2035, 100% of vehicles sold need to be electric or plug-in hybrid. They're like, hybrids are so much better. We're going to mandate that everyone do it. And they're like, cool, so can we do it? And they're like, no, we forgot to put in a little clause that allows the hybrid generator to exist. But you can can you just take the generator and go get it tested? Like, okay. Like, can you go get it tested? And you're like, well, how much does that cost? Well, it's probably about $5 to $10 million to do the testing. $10 million is more money than we've had in our company's history to get something. So you want me to pay $10 million to another private company to then do it, and then we would have to become the engine manufacturer. So now then I got to convince the engine manufacturer to then do it. So I need to convince a large engine manufacturer to spend $10 million to get it tested, in which they're going to turn around and say, can you spend the $10 million? We're not going to spend it. So it's like, it just doesn't make any sense. It's such a pain. And it's like, it's better. We know it's better. Everybody knows it's better. But I've got to still pay a private company to spend $10 million with another company to do the data on this specific use case when our tax money has already paid the billions of dollars to do the study. And you're like,
Hey, everybody, I got to cut in here. We got to put a little bit of a pause on this episode because Dallas and I, we always try to do a little bit on Saskatchewan mental health. And Chace is an amazing guest. He was on a time schedule, so we just let him go. So this is a separate recorded bit that we're doing, and we're going to put it right here about in the middle where I've put it in the editing. And as you know, Dallas and I, we are very passionate about mental health in farming and just the aspect of mental health.
Mental health in general is something that I find a lot of people have taken for granted, or they're overlooking it, or they're saying it's not a factor. And I know, actually we all know it's a factor.
Because out here on the prairies, we all know farming just isn't a job. It's a lifestyle. It's early mornings, late nights, breakdowns, and mud, weather that doesn't care, and bills that don't wait. And even though we're tough, sometimes the weight of it all gets too heavy. Stress and anxiety burnout, they sneak up on anybody. It doesn't matter how long you've been farming or how strong you are, and nobody has to deal with it alone. The Saskatchewan Farm Stress Line is here for exactly that. It's free, confidential, and it's judgment-free, and it's run by people who understand the ag life. Whether you're dealing with financial pressures, family stress, crop issues, or just feeling overwhelmed, they're there to talk day or night, 24/7. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, yeah, things have been a lot like that lately, just know reaching out isn't weakness. It's you taking care of yourself so you can keep taking care of your farm, your family, and everything you're building. So if you need somebody to talk to, or you know someone who might, don't wait. Call the Saskatchewan Farm Stress Line anytime. The number is 1-800-667-4442.
Yeah, like I said before, mental health is something we've overlooked and we can't overlook anymore. It's too important. We try to take care of our bodies, but part of taking care of your bodies is you have to take care of your mind. And reaching out for help for, right now I'm fighting a little gout. I reach out to a doctor. I'm going to take care of this freaking gout. But sometimes if you're having some mental issues and a little bit unstable and you have some bad thoughts and you can't deal with certain things, reaching out for help isn't a sign of weakness. In my mind, it's a sign of strength.
That's well said, Dallas. I agree with you on
Yeah.
that. So we're going to keep this short. I know this is a very interesting episode, so we're going to get right back into this episode. And everybody, thank you for listening.
So there's lots more to come. So one more thing, some of our environmental rules are really based off of California environmental rules. Is that an issue, or is California going to let off on some of these, or how is that connected so much together?
Well, it's based on EPA rules. So not California. Our rules are based on the general U.S. EPA, not the California Air Resort, not CARB. We're based on EPA. So our rules just say that we follow U.S. rules, which the U.S. just did their thing and be like, we're going back to 2006 emissions. So if they do that, we get to build hybrids. We can put the motor we want. We don't have to deal with I think we don't have to deal with a lot of shit, and I don't have to deal with any DEF, any I could just drop a motor in and have it done. Like if they actually repeal it, it automatically repeals to Canada. Although, the more frustrating part is that they're talking like, so that would be good, right? If the U.S. repeals it, we could actually build these. And they're like, yeah. But we are talking about then changing our own specific rules and like maybe switching over to like Euro emissions, which also would allow us to do it too. So it's like that could work. Or we may just keep the exact same rules as they are and make it that we have to have Tier 4 final on-road 2027 emission standards and got it anyway. So they may just, and I fully believe that the government will probably bring in a stupid emission, write their own rules, and then still not put in the exemption for us.
Oh my God. The frustrating factor is off the charts, I would assume. For somebody that just wants to build a logging truck that's fuel efficient going up and down a mountain.
Well, and it's kind of annoying too. It's like, okay, I'm 99% sure that we will get this resolved and we will find something that works, whether it's a Cummins on highway that we backdoor into, whether it's the generator emissions being approved. There'll be some. I just don't know when it's going to happen. And the thing is, it's like, how often is a Canadian company the first one to market? Like, how often, like, you think about it, Canada's not always the leader in new cool technology. We have a chance to do this first. And the only thing that our government is doing is going to give all the big U.S. manufacturers a chance to catch up. Because now we've had enough prototypes where we've shown that it works. We've shown we can do it. We've shown that there's fuel mileage savings, and we've gotten companies interested. And then the government says, hold on, pause that, no more sales, can't deliver any trucks, can't make any more trucks, can't order any more engines for a hybrid until we get this sorted. How long is that going to take? Well, it could be 6 months, could be a year or two. We're working on some new changes. Now with the EPA, we're going to try and reevaluate all the US EPA things. You're like, you're just giving all the American companies a chance to develop their own hybrid kits, build their own trucks, and then come to market. And then your advantage to being a young, early company and an innovator is that you're the first one to market. You're the first one to be able to get it out there. People get associated with it. All you're doing is tying our hands up for 2 years to give all the American companies a chance to come in there, flood the market, and then, cool, we developed all the technology, we proved it works, and then our government ties our hands to the point where the American companies are now announcing that they're now building hybrids. Well, guess what? In 2 years, they'll be caught up and they'll be able to roll their hybrids out. Like, that's not fair. That's not that's not fair though.
That's not heckin' fair.
That's not heckin' fair. It really ain't. It really ain't. It's like we finally have a Canadian company. We're innovative. We're building the first one to market. We can do everything in North America. And then our own government's like, no. The Canadian government just says, no, that's not fair. We got to give the American companies a chance to catch up. God.
Are you nervous eventually over if you got this done and through, some American company will show up with a check with more zeros than you and I can count on it, and they'll just buy you out? Has that ever been a fear or an option? I don't think it.
I'm sure that they will. Like, some American companies have already tossed that idea around before. Like, oh, we'll take over 80%. Here, you're like, why don't you just take the $50-60 million and go away? Or we like, no. Yeah, what they don't understand is like, We've seen it every time in the Canadian trucking industry. Kenworth used to be headquartered down and they're based out of Vancouver. They used to build trucks down in Vancouver. Western Star was out of Kelowna. Pacific and Hayes were both based out of Burnaby, Langley. What happened? You seen it. The American Kenworth came over and bought out the Canadian Kenworth, rolled it into PACCAR, shut the Canadian plant down, moved it down to the States. International came, bought out Pacific, shut Pacific down. PACCAR came, they bought Hayes and shut the Hayes plant down 6 months later. No, you guys are building really good trucks. You have a Hayes and Pacific are known to be some of the toughest trucks on the road. So we probably should shut that down right now. Shut it down. So
that's kind of one of the directions you're going with your trucks too. The few that you show on your social media, you're building them tough. There's no fiberglass on them. They're made out of steel. They got heavy frame rails. And one thing I noticed in one of your videos, instead of doing a double frame rail, you're just making a thicker one.
Yeah, like my old Kenworth, the Canadian Kenworth, has a frame rail from the 1960s. It has the original stamp in there, and they ran a 1/2-inch single frame rail, and that was an off-highway logging truck, but you don't get the rust jacking. Double frame, you end up getting that rust in there in that Canadian winter, and it starts separating. Now, once you have 10 mils of deflection, that frame rail's no good. It can't pass an inspection, and it only takes 8-10 years before you get that deflection and the rust jacking, sometimes sooner in a Canadian winter if you're in a heavy salted area. And now your truck's no good, and you got to replace the frame rails, where if you ran the old school one, you can clean it, you can wash it, it doesn't rust jack. If it does rust jack a little bit where a cross member is, you just replace that cross member, put a new one, clean it up. Like, way easier than replacing a whole double frame. So you've seen the way that they were built, and that's the way we wanted to build them. So we looked at it, and every time an American company buys a Canadian company, they move it, like Western Star moved their manufacturing down to Mexico. They move the manufacturing down south, and the quality isn't there. Like, people are complaining about quality. They say that the quality is the same. I personally don't think it is compared to when you compare those 1990s Western Stars compared to the new ones. They're not the same truck. They're built for a different market, I think. I think they're largely focused on the U.S. market with 80,000-pound gross weights, running down the highway, the large volume. They don't want us. But so when people ask me, like, are you going to sell out to the American companies? No, I do not want to, because every time you let an American company get their grubby mitts on the Canadian truck manufacturers or the Canadian innovation company, they buy it, they shelve it, they shut it down, they lay all the workers off, or they move the jobs down south and be like, wow, you made a great product. We're having a hard time competing against your really quality. Like, they didn't shut these companies down because the sales suffered, I think. I think they just didn't want the competition. So shut it down. That's it. Shut the plant down. I'm not selling out. And the thing is, they're like, I don't think they understand the mindset. We're like, well, we could just write you millions of dollars. What if we just wrote you millions of dollars and you don't have to worry and stress? And you're like, you don't understand the levels of autism in this company over the trucks. Like, we love trucks. You don't understand it. Like, I don't want $50 million. I want to build sweet trucks. You know what I would do with $50 million? I would turn around and I would build sweet trucks. That's what I'm already doing. Like, I don't need a yacht. I don't need a private jet. I don't need a fancy house anywhere. Like, I'm a pretty simple guy. I just want to build something that's really cool that I can be proud of. And like, no amount of money is going to change doing that.
And have a closet full of flannel.
I guess. It's not like my fashion's probably going to change. I'm going to start wearing Armani suits. You know, like, I got this from Mark's for $40. It's lasted me like 2 years. I'm probably going to buy the same thing if I was a billionaire, if I had Baroque.
Well, and that's one thing dealing with agriculture trucks. Most farm trucks are never new trucks. I mean, we end up, one of our trucks is an old logging truck. Most of them are old oil patch trucks. Most of them are 46 rears. Most of them are double frames, and most of them have rough jacking off the wazoo. And none of them have a heavy enough frame to begin with, because they're made with a light frame. Oh, we want a heavy truck. Slap in another chunk of frame in there. Ta-da! Double frame, and now you have junk. For if it leaves the factory as a 1/2-inch frame, like you said, it's going to last way longer and be way better, because one of your trucks has got, ours show up around here between 5 to 12 years old, and then they become farm trucks till they die on the hill south of the farm, So that's where trucks, people wonder, where do old highway trucks go? They go to farms and they die there. They haul bales, they haul cows, they haul this until there's nothing left of them, and then they just die out in the pasture, and that's what they live out the rest of their lives.
But I think these manufacturers or these big MBA guys look at that and they get so mad. It's like, man, these farmers buy older trucks for cheap and they run these old trucks. What if the trucks could fail before the farmer had a chance to get it, or when the farmer gets it, it's so expensive that he can't maintain it, and then he's got to come buy a new truck from us and bring it in to get it serviced by us, and we'll make all these farmers are buying old trucks from the 80s and 90s, and they're keeping them going, and they're buying the parts and they're fixing them. What if we trap them into a new truck by making the new truck so that they don't last 5, 6? It's like a washing machine. You could buy a washing machine. You look at our grandparents' washing machines, they would buy one and that thing would last 30, 40 years. Part breaks, they fix a part on it. Well, now you buy a new washing machine, it lasts 2, 3 years, and there's no chance it's lasting past 4 or 5 years, and then you're stuck always buying it. I think that they're annoyed that farmers are running old trucks.
Yes.
Don't do a half-inch single frame rail. We don't want the truck to last that long.
Yes, exactly. Well, that's, we had an '01 Kenworth 100B, good looking, no legroom truck.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Motor went out pretty unexpectedly, honest. And that was that CM 570, big power, pre-emissions motor. Well, we spent $20-some thousand more on getting that exact motor rebuilt than we paid for that truck, because that truck now with a brand new, fresh 588, I had her dynoed 588 to the ground.
Nice.
No emissions, no EGR. You can't put it back on. It wasn't born with it. Truck,
Yep.
And for around the farm, besides having zero legroom, whoever designed the Kenworth cab had to be 4'4". But
I hear you.
I'm 6 feet tall and overweight, and I like legroom and to be able to move my seat back. And I need to put the big boy bunk extension on there. So if somebody's listening to this and wants to come put a tall boy or big boy bunk extension on there, hook me up, because I got the perfect truck to do that too.
Well, that's why we pushed that cab back. I like the skinniness of the old cabs. Like the old Peterbilt and the old Kenworth cabs where it's skinnier. Like, I don't need a lot of legroom off to my right. I want to be able to recline my seat back. I don't want to be straight up and down. I want to be able to and they keep going the wrong way. Like, stop making the cab wider. I don't need a wider cab, because then when my water bottle falls under the passenger floor, it's completely unreachable. I liked having my passenger seat right there, because you know what? I used to set my lunchbox on it. I set my little lunchbox or my drink box, like my drink or like whatever I needed, like little paperwork. I grab it off the passenger seat. But now you look at the new cabs, it's so far away, and your scope of vision gets worse, because the farther away you move the passenger door, the larger your blind spot is. Like, if you just move your arm out and you have a look at how far out your arm is, and you bring that in, you can see down farther. Bringing in the door closer gives you a better field of view. Like, yeah, I get it for the highway trucks, like the highway guys that live out of those trucks and they want to be able to walk around and have a little bit more. That makes sense to me. But for me as a logger, I was home every night. I stay within like 200-300 kilometers of my house. I just want to be able to see a lot better. I don't want the wider cab. I want the longer legroom cab. So that's how we built our cab.
Yeah, exactly. You're building it for your needs, which is actually exactly why you're on this podcast, because what you're designing fits into almost every farm's trucking programs.
Yeah. I am sure that my goal is I want a truck that lasts for 20, 30 years like they used to be, so that they end up on a farm. I hope when I'm looking now, 10, 15 years from now, I look by a farm and I just see one of our old Edisons sitting there hauling in during the season. Like, it's just still running, not complicating things. And I hope to God that we have a truck that farmer never has to come back to Edison and be like, hey, I need this specific turn. So he can just go to his local parts store, grab the part. Like, that's my goal, is to never have to see that farmer. Like, I feel like we'd build a good truck if I don't have to see the farmer in 10, 15 years for that truck again.
And a big factor is, a lot of farms, we don't have, but a lot of farms have gen sets sitting on the farm because our power grid, I would call it, is shitty and old. So one ice storm, all of our power poles from the 50s are going over. But if I could just wheel up old Topsy up to the power pole, plug it in, flip the switch, I could power the entire yard. The water bowls won't freeze at the corrals. The house would run efficiency. My Starlink would still work. Thanks, Elon. And it'll all still work. But right now, I don't have that big gen set because it costs a freaking fortune for something that might not run more than 2 hours in 6 years. But if I had that big highway truck that's producing that much wattage to run the yard, perfect. Fire it up, drive it over, plug it in. Awesome.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that would be the nice goal to be able to have our trucks do that. And we can offshore power. It's not always as like kind of comes at like 20 kilowatts of like what we could do with a normal inverter. And then if you want to run full generator power, like the full like 400 kilowatts, we would need to put a lot bigger inverters, and those cost about $25,000 to put onto the truck. So we're not really going to offer like the bold, big, full 400 kilowatts. And a lot of people like they really only need like a house uses like 4 kilowatts per hour. So the
Yeah.
idea would be like, okay, like that's probably more than enough to like run a house or whatever it is. So it's like, okay, we can use the batteries and you could run your house for a long time off the batteries. So it's like we were looking at it and you're like, okay, that does like 80% of the use cases for most people for needing a standby battery. And then when the batteries get low, the generator just fire up for an hour, recharge the batteries, and then shut back off again for another couple days. You're like, do we really like it's the internal debates in the company. Do we need to put in a big 400 thing that costs $25,000 on every single truck and adds an extra like 400 pounds on there for something that's going to be used in a standby situation of running a plant? There have been a few people that have asked for that 250 kilowatts because they have big power needs and they want to offshore big power, but it's been an internal debate. It costs a lot of money and adds a lot of weight to offer big power. And it's like, I think like, but yeah, for your house goes out or your small appliances around the farm, it's probably more than plenty for that, I
Oh,
would
I would
hope.
think so. And you get smart with what you power up. Okay, we don't need to have all these deep freezes plugged in because they'll stay frozen for 3 days. But I really want my TV and my internet to work and charge my phone and maybe not have a water freeze.
Yep, and I mean, even I wonder how much power a freezer uses. Like, how much power does those big deep freezes use?
Probably not a lot. Probably the ones made in the 50s that they dug the basement, put the deep freeze in, and then put the house on top. Those ones probably don't take a lot of power because they weigh 700 pounds and they're 4.5 inches thick. Because they're actually made to refrigerate and keep stuff frozen for a very long time. And because you'll go to houses and they're like, "How'd you ever get that deep freeze in the basement?" They're like, "Yeah, we put it here and then we put the house on top of it because that was the only way to put it in."
So one question I got for you. You're using a diesel motor and then you're having it power a generator. So what does the power off the diesel engine need to be to generate X amount of power on the generator?
It's about 95% efficient.
So say I have a
So
100 horsepower diesel engine, what would the horsepower be on the electric generator?
95, 98% power. It's pretty comparable to your loss on a transmission. I think we're about 3-4% worse in our power. If you look at our drive line compared to a mechanical drive line delivering our power, we are a little bit worse, I think. Relatively flush to possibly worse, a couple percent worse, in that it's not quite as efficient of a truck running with a mechanical gear line because we transfer the AC power to DC back to AC. Sometimes if you're direct shunting it from AC to the motor, not putting the battery first, like you're using the power when you're doing it, it's a little bit more efficient. So it washes out to a little bit worse. But then you get the advantage of your regen braking, your peak load, you're running at 1 RPM. So if you look at just one static state of the truck at the moment where it's doing 100 kilometers an hour down the highway, it's about a wash. But if you look at like short haul, empty versus loaded versus being able to optimize that for the power you need, you're like, okay, when I'm empty, I'm using really inefficient because I'm running a really big one because I'm spec for when I'm loaded. And then when I slow down, I recapture. And every time I start, I have this peak power. I don't have to shift gears. I don't have to bounce up and down my RPM. That's when you start seeing the efficiencies. So the harder you use the truck, the more stop and go, the more hill pulls, the more off road, the better your fuel economy and the efficiencies get. Like the worst application is a highway truck in the US.
So when you
Oh, I just looked it up here. I'm sorry, when we were talking, the commercial freezer uses 1 to 2 kilowatts per hour when it's running. Like that's a walk-in commercial freezer.
yeah,
Walk-in commercial deep freeze at like a restaurant. So it means like if we can offshore like 20 kilowatts of power, like you could run 10 of those things off the truck. So I feel
Yeah.
like you're still, unless you're
Yeah.
running like crazy amounts of like running a portable sawmill or something like that.
So with the regenerative brakings, I know you're still in the testing phase, but obviously you're not using the truck brakes hardly at all. Like the truck brakes, are they built lighter? Are they going to last just 100 times longer?
I don't know. Depends how you drive it. You have stronger power than your engine brake, so you slow down at a jake, but it's very similar to using an engine brake.
Oh,
If you turn on your engine brake and you drop gears with your engine brake and you're a driver that thinks about those things of like how am I going to slow down before the light, your brakes are going to last longer. But if you're a driver that just hammers all the way up to the red light and be like, "Oh, I forgot that meant stop, and then jams on his brakes at the last second. You're gonna burn up your brakes. So it's
Yeah.
very similar. So it is like 30% stronger than an engine brake, and you have that torque applied smoothly without having to drop the gears, so you can be a little bit lazier with it. But it all comes down to the driver. I
Yep.
know a lot of EV people are like, "Whoa, this is so much better. You don't have to use the brakes. The brakes on a Tesla basically rust because you don't have to use them." You're like, it's gonna be so great for semi trucks. And this is how you can tell like Tesla does not know anything about the trucking industry. Cause I remember they did their big thing with the Tesla Semi and they're like, this is great. The regen holdback means that the driver doesn't have to use the brake, which means that this truck driver can go down a big mountain grade and he doesn't have to touch his brake pedal once. That's virtually unheard of to have cool brakes at the bottom of a mountain summit. You're like, every truck driver watching that, like, no, a good truck driver would drop his gears and use his engine brake. Like, if
Yep.
you're a good driver, you shouldn't be seeing a huge difference. And that's the goal. My goal building this truck is that it shouldn't be different for the driver. You shouldn't have to learn a whole new set of skills. It should act like a truck acts.
Yeah. Well, where we live, Tyler hasn't been down to the farm here yet, but we have what the North American Divide, we call it the bench. And in about a mile and a half, we go up about 600 feet, and then it kind of plateaus up top there. But that first little bit in that first quarter mile, you probably drop 300 feet. It's steep. But if you hit the top of that doing like 70 mile an hour, there isn't a brake on the world going to hold you back. You're strolling by the neighbors doing about 95 mile an hour with the brakes just glowing. But if you get to the top of that hill, you gear down into the basement and you're down in like fourth, you can jake all the way down that hill, never touch the brakes once. But if you hit the top at full speed, you ain't stopping for nothing. Or you're going to have some smoke brakes if you have to. So
Yeah, and I mean, we can apply a extra. So while I say it's the same, like this is the internal thing. You're like, now that we were looking at the X15, we could, in theory, we were looking at like, oh man, running like a 15 liter versus a 10 liter doesn't it? It kind of actually saves money on fuel because you're running the bigger motor, not as heavy and
Yep.
not as much. Instead of running like the 10 liter full out, you run a big one. So you do add like an extra 1,000 pounds of weight, but you do save money in the fuel side of things. But when we're looking at some of the advantages of the bigger motor, now let's say I'm putting things into the batteries and I'm dumping that regen in the batteries and I'm taking the regen I can take, but the electric motor. So I've got 1,800 horsepower on the new trucks with the new axles coming in. And I can push where a normal mechanical truck can take off about 400 horsepower of holdback. With the electric motors, I could actually theoretically do 1,800, but my batteries will only take about 600 of the holdback. So I go from 400 to about 600. That's about how much regen those batteries can actually take in a moment. They can't just be slammed with crazy power. We learned that the hard way after blowing a few things up on Topsy, that there's a limit to how much power you can really slam into things.
Yeah.
But when we found out with the thing, we can send power to the electric generator. So the generator is basically just a motor and it spins one way and you put mechanical energy into it, you get electrical energy out, it's a generator. I can flow electrical power back into the motor and then spin the motor against it, which means that I could fire those Jake heads on the X15 and I can fight that engine compression. And basically that generator's applying a load like a drive shaft going down a hill. And now I can set an extra 400 horsepower there plus the 600, which means that now I've got 1,000 horsepower of holdback versus the normal mechanical truck with 400. Or like, if I do that way, I can, instead of being 30% more holdback, I'm like 2 times more holdback. Oh, that kind of makes sense now. And
Well,
then
that's some slamming into the windshield braking.
that's some like 1,000 horsepower braking. Like that is hopping down a big hill and being like, whoa, I need to stop in a hurry here. I dropped off this hill at 100 and all of a sudden somebody cut me off and I got to get on the binders, get on the regen and really hold that weight back. That's something I want to play with.
Yes, that's major.
But do we add do I add the extra 1,000 weight? Like, is that a thing that we just make standard? And you're like, okay, we're building the mechanical trucks with an X15. And we're like, that's the way we're doing it. And you're like, man, it should be easy production line, being a small company trying to streamline production to use the same X15. Because then it's the same box for the same after treatment. It's the same exhaust routing. It's the same engine mounts, same programming, same wiring harness. As a small manufacturer running a tiny shop, the efficiencies of just using the same engine, it's like you may have to just deal with an extra 1,000 pounds of weight on your truck. And then we started doing the math. Okay, that's an extra 1,000 pounds of weight. And the fuel savings could be like, save like 4 liters per hour from running a bigger motor a little bit more efficiently. And you're like, okay, well, that at $1.40 a liter, that works out to $6. But then the truck gets paid logging trucks get paid like $5 per ton hour, which means that they make $5 per ton for every ton they bring into the mill. But I'm adding an extra half ton of weight, but that means that they're costing $250, but they're saving $5. So even though I'm adding an extra 1,000 pounds, their total efficiency gain is $250 an hour. So they're actually kind of saving money by having the bigger engine. Plus, then you get bigger braking. Plus, then I can double up the power. And instead of being able to have the 1,200 horsepower that the batteries can do, if I send the power from the X15 in with the power from the batteries, then I can maximize that full 1,800 horsepower. But then I've also talked to the engineering team, and they're like, Chace, you're already giving them 1,200 horsepower. Like, you're already double the amount of power with the electric torque. Do you really need to be like, no, 1,200 horsepower in my semi-truck isn't enough. I need 1,800 horsepower in a production truck. Now you get into an issue of like, can you even deliver that power to the wheels? And you're like, no, it'd be sure nice pulling a big grade though, being able to slam that extra 600 slam the extra 400 horsepower out of the big X15 into the drive motors. At the same time, I'm also giving that battery power, because now, like, we were doing some of the math climbing one of the big hills, like a 12% grade coming up to Coquihalla, and you're like, I get an extra 10, 15 kilometers an hour up that grade, which doesn't sound like a lot until you realize that it's a 20-kilometer grade. If I'm climbing 20 kilometers at 10 kilometers an hour with an 8-axle low bed, that's an hour and a half I've got to climb that grade. If I can get an extra 15 kilometers an hour, now instead of climbing that grade for an hour and a half, I'm on that grade for 20 minutes. And any truck driver will know that in the wintertime, when you're pulling that weight, momentum is your friend. The heavier you are, and you're dropping those gears, trying to apply that more torque, and now you're going slower. Now you're spinning tires and you're slipping because you can't power through the hill and climb with that momentum under your wheels. So that extra 15 kilometers an hour means you're not spinning out, you're not spending the extra time, you're getting more payload into the mill. You're like, oh, with the extra 1,000 pounds of weight kind of makes sense with this X15 from a manufacturing point of view. So I don't know. We're just still debating it. I haven't talked about it publicly yet. I don't know.
The extra weight I don't think is a factor, because if you're fuel savings, you put a little smaller fuel tank on there. Well, there's some weight savings and so on and so forth. So, but it sounds like it's a very efficient way to do it. And again, all we're trying to do is be more efficient, get more stuff hauled for less fuel.
Yeah, that's all we're trying to do. Get more hauled for less. And I like big power. If we're being honest, I honestly just like having the big power.
You're telling that to a guy that has a 4-stroke turbocharged snowmobile. So I also like big power.
And like, it kind of works. And we're going with the thing like, oh, can I share things? Is that an option on a podcast? Because you guys want to see what it looks like on the prototype?
Well, we're not recording
Is that a thing I can show you?
Oh, yeah. Well, we're not recording this, so you can show us all we want. We're not recording the video.
Oh, you're not recording the video? Oh, well, people listening are missing out then. But that's the new X15 there with the new battery setup. So that's got the X15 with the after treatment. We put the new battery pack. Instead of having 6 batteries, we've been able to decrease her down to the 2 batteries. And then we got the big fuel tank under the driver's seat, which kind of like, I kind of like this. Like, compared to the 6 batteries we had before.
You forgot the steps in the fuel tank. That's hard climbing in and out, though.
Oh, hold on. We got that right here.
Oh, there they are. Folks, we had pictures with and now they got the steps.
Oh, hold on. I didn't like that step, so I think we changed it over on design-wise to the new step, but
It's like a Freightliner with the tanks under the door. You're going to have all the Peterbilt guys pissed off at you. The steps or the tanks are supposed to be beneath the bunk.
Our W900 is the exact same way. When you climb into the truck, you're climbing up the fuel tank.
yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. Like, I'd rather have the normal step and then have the 2 fuel tanks behind it, but for practicality-wise, it just made more sense to put the batteries back there, so the batteries are jet collector across, and they can share their power, so. But yeah, that's the new design we got.
Sweet. I'm glad that only us seeing that, because we're not recording this. So we're not that high tech
I wasn't sure if you recorded videos or not, but yeah, so everyone listening is like, wow, I got to show them some really cool stuff that you can't see, but we should be able to show you guys in a month or 2.
Yep. No, yeah. So this is for your eyes only. So speaking of trucks and some of our old trucks, you're a long ways away from this, but you've probably kicked the idea around of coming up with retrofit kits for older existing trucks, like where I could convert my old 9900i over to diesel hybrid electric.
Yeah, we thought, you could buy all the parts, or like you can buy a crate engine. If you can buy a crate engine, why shouldn't we be able to sell a crate package?
Yep.
Sell the parts that we make up our truck, and then if somebody wants to put them in there, and that was the original way we were going to start it with this company. We're like, okay, if we do it and we develop it, we'll sell them as a kit. Because I thought building your own truck would be crazy, crazy difficult. And then like, okay, well then the kit need to have it tested and road certified, so you need to build a chassis to do it. And then we built our own cab and chassis and got it street legal, and we're like, we could actually did that. Like when we built Topsy, I thought it was going to be a prototype. I'll be honest, I wasn't sure we were going to be able to get it street legal. I'm like, it's going to be a hurdle. Like we're 4 or 5 guys. We built this in our backyard. Are we going to be able to get this through the steps to get it street legal with a license plate? And we did, and we got a license plate. So we're like, we can actually build it. And then some people are like, hey, a lot of the larger fleets are like, we don't want to retrofit. That is a ton of work. Like our shops don't know how to put in the high voltage or install everything. And then we've got this old truck. It's got double frame rails. It's already got rust jacking. Like it's 8-10 years. And now the frame rails. So now I need new frame rails. Now I need new air lines. Now I got to replace the high voltage, and I need a new wiring harness. And then if I'm doing that, I might as well just change out, like, by the time I'm doing all that work and doing the labor to remove everything and put it in there, can we just buy a new truck? And then it became a financing issue too. Is like, okay, like a lot of people who looked into it, and you're like, okay, the bank's going to look at that like a repair and be like, hey, are you going to drop that kind of money on a repair bill for this old 20-year-old truck? And we're going to look at the blue book value of that truck. And you're like, oh, man, that repair is worth more than that truck is. We're not going to pay that. That's crazy. So then you can't get it financed. So now you have to have the cash to do it. But then a lot of large fleets do it. So then there was this big push of like, hey, it's reasonable. We can build our own truck, so why don't we do it? And yeah, I can still put the kit out as an option, but
Something to talk about more in the future, that's for sure.
it's funny how a lot of these things become, you can see all the mental, like all of these internal discussions that happen. It's like there's so many good ideas that all you do is you kind of bat these ideas around. And I've been sharing all our ideas as we go. Like we kind of share our ideas and what we're thinking on social media as we think about the ideas and get the feedback on it.
This is one thing that Dallas and I have talked about back and forth amongst each other, knowing we had this episode with you coming up, Chace, is at seeding time, a lot of farmers around here, they'll run an 80-foot drill, and then they'll have a 1,300 bushel tank behind them. That is well over 200,000 pounds worth of weight they're pulling around in a field with shanks in the ground. So I don't know if anybody's ever done a test, but there's probably close to 300-400 pounds of pressure on the drawbar at that tractor, and they're only pulling it with 500 horse. So with the technology you've done with this hybrid electric, and even if you didn't have the batteries, with the technology we have in farm equipment right now, it's getting very advanced. We tossed around the idea that we could have the air cart, which carries the seed, it be partially powered, where it would carry 50% of its own weight.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe that's something with one of your retrofit kits that would work. It's just an idea.
Like our air cart weighs 44,000 pounds empty. I can put 60,000 pounds of product in there. So I'm at 104,000 pounds of product sitting on 6 850 big fat floater tires. And that's before I turn on one fan, and ours has 2 fans, and 36 electric 40 amp motors that runs the metering system on that cart. And you'll be sitting in the tractor and you'll engage the hydraulic circuits, and then one fan, you're at 9% engine load. Click on the next fan, you're at 12. Click on the other circuits to power up the whole system. You're at 15, 16% engine load, and you haven't even tried to pull it yet. And I farm on some 28% grades, so I take every ounce of that 700 horsepower tractor, and then I don't have enough. But if that cart could run its own fans, its own meters, and have some sort of e-axle that could probably push up to 50% of its own weight at one time, I'd be laughing.
Yeah, it's like these are the cool things that I'd love to get into. And like when you get into the trucks, I'd love to have a little skunk work department that can like work with like some farmers, and develop something. Like I'm not an expert in the farming industry. I know we've worked with some companies before that built some logging equipment, and we helped them look at some hybrid stuff for their swing drives on their machines and run all their stuff. And like Yeah, it's like, I would love to do more of these things. We worked with one company to help set them up with some stuff that they use for some wireline operations. That was a few years back. So it's like, I'd love to work with some farmers. We just don't have the time right now. Yeah, no, I want to work with those things. I want to be able to figure those things out. We do not have the extra reserve
No.
capacity, but I'm at the very least, what I'm hoping to do is show that, like, look, our background, we were a bunch of truck drivers. Like, we're not engineers. We're not investment guys. Like, I'm a truck driver. My dad drove truck. My grandpa drove truck, but we figured this out. I am 100% positive that there are some very, very clever farmers. Farmers are probably some of the smartest people out there. They manage to get things done in tight time frames out in the middle of nowhere and be able to figure things out.
Oh, yeah.
I am sure that a farmer sitting there with time on his hands during the off season will be able to retrofit a tractor. And I think we've shown enough things on like how it works and how to do it. And I hope somebody does. I hope somebody takes our kind of technology or takes even if we can sell them the batteries or the electric motors and they're like, here you
Yep.
go, like try these out. We've had good luck with them. Here's some help on the programming, and I hope
Well,
we can
that's
do
it
that.
because the tractor technology to get up to the 800 horsepower now is now touching well into the seven figures to buy a tractor of that technology. But if you could pull your toolbar with a tractor from the early 2000s that's worth, $150,000, it's still 600 horsepower, but doesn't have enough hydraulics to run that entire system. But that air cart is full of technology and will last for decades back there. That's pushing it, powering it, running the fans. A 25-year-old tractor might be laughing out front, and instead of spending 1.1 million on a tractor and 300,000 on an air cart, you'll spend 200 grand on a tractor and 600 grand on an air cart. But your total investment will be far less with an older, cheaper tractor out front and a really high tech because the
And it should
technology.
last forever too. Like that's the other nice thing is that you look at those Laternos, there's like the number one, the generator is running at one steady RPM. That's where those things love to run at. A diesel motor wants to just sit there and chew at 1700 RPM all day. It lasts forever doing that. So your maintenance is down on that. And electric motors like Laterno's the one I would look at. They've got those hub drive motors where it's an electric mat. And the thing is that there's nothing that can really break. It's two bearings, and then you have a magnet with a stator rolling around, and it's just electromagnetic force. There's not much that can really wear down. Like it's not like you're turning gears and the gears are rubbing against each other wearing out. It's just it's electromagnetic force pushing. There's nothing that's actually physically in contact to really wear out the same way. It's a magnet with some copper wires. Like it lasts forever. Those Laternos are still running, and they were built in the 60s and from the 1970s, and it was still unloading hundreds of logging trucks per day. You give that to a farmer out working, that thing is going to last forever.
What?
So you
Yeah,
buy one tractor, you keep that tractor for 30, 40 years, and that tractor puts out whatever power you need. And then, you're pulling the one day, you go out and you pull the thing that weighs 200,000 pounds, but it's got its own little generator on it, and it's helping move its own little axles around. And then that tractor with the 400 horsepower, if it doesn't need 400 horsepower that day, it's not running around with an engine with that power. You're only using what you need when you need it. And every little implement could have its own little generator you fire up, start up. Rah, rah, rah.
yeah.
Like it makes so much sense. Like I kind of wish that old RJ Letourneau got into farm equipment. He got into mining equipment. He got into forestry equipment. And I mean, that guy built like 50% of the earth moving equipment in World War II. So he did a lot of earth moving. That was his bread and butter. But can you imagine how the farming industry would have been changed if Letourneau built a tractor? Like, I swear, the guy that builds that diesel electric tractor, like an old Letourneau from the 60s and 70s, is going to change the farming industry. It's like, remember how John Deere got started? We all know the story of John Deere. That guy built a plow. He built a farming implement. And he built a slightly better farming implement. And then he got involved and he built a tractor to pull the farming implement. And he built another
I
little
got to
couple of
correct you there. He bought a tractor company that already exists,
He did.
and
Oh,
Yeah.
he bought the Waterloo Boy company, and
Yep.
then he took it farther. He did not build a tractor to start with.
well, he basically did like Elon did with Tesla.
Yep.
Didn't actually start Tesla. He bought a company that existed and then rebranded it for himself.
John Deere makes some of the best farm machinery out there. It stole every idea from somebody else or bought a company that manufactured, like, their twin rotor combine, good combine, stolen from New Holland, and so on and so forth.
It's just a New Holland combine with the green paint.
Yeah, it's a good New Holland.
Fair.
Or
I
a
mean,
new,
And,
That's,
even on
fair enough. But I mean, you think about it some ways. Like you look at that background, grand idea. You'd have a tractor and you start offering different things for it. Like whoever's going to do that and build their electric tractor, now they're also going to lock in the implements and they're going to be able to provide a really cool implement that you pull. Whatever thing you're using, now it's got a generator. Now that's tied into that tractor and they're going to be able to branch off and we buy that. And then you're going to be like, it's going to be more efficient, more reliable, and they're going to be successful with it. Whoever comes
Yes.
up with this idea is going to be insanely successful. Like I really wanted to be me. As soon as we get the trucks figured out, I will try a good chance at it. So if you are listening to this and you are a farmer that can figure this out, you can probably beat me to it, and I hope you do. But if you don't, and you don't build this as a farmer and build a better tractor that works and is more reliable, I'll do it in a couple of years, and you'll lose your chance. So
well, just my idea with the air drill or the air seeder, like we were talking about here just recently, I don't feel like it would be that difficult to make it work. To get it put together would be the difficult part. And my idea was if you put load cells in the hitch that sense how much weight that cart is pulling, has a pulling force, because there's already load cells on the new style carts that tell how much weight's there. So if you could have it do some computer math in there and figure out how much force it needs to push forward or reverse or whatever you're doing to move 50% of its own weight in correspondence through the ISO bus going to the tractor.
I don't even think you need to get that complicated. Like realistically, you could just have a communication, like a 4-wire communication wire that you plug in, and then you start your implement, and then you control it off of it. And how the truck's got the old jerry bar on the steering wheel. You could have that. So you got your power off of your main tractor power that you apply, and then you also set your power because the Australian road trains. You ever see those mine trains down in Australia and watch how they run? They've got a power on their trailer, but they just got an extra thing that powers or slows down their truck. And you just apply the power off that. And you could either do it two ways where you have a set percentage of, hey, whatever I'm applying to my throttle of my tractor, I want 50% of the power on the implement. Or you could just have one that's either set up. I don't know what's better. I'm not a farmer. You could either set it up where when I push this ahead, you push me with this much power, and then the driver or operator just controls how much that's pushing versus pulling, and it would be up to him to control that.
And if you get stuck
I
in the
don't-
mud, you could slam the air cart in reverse and pull yourself out.
Yeah, I mean, and if you go in through it, that's the nice thing too, is like, I was looking at some trailer options. Because you're like, oh man, when you get your drive tires stuck in your mud, it'd sure be nice to have your trailer also pushing that truck out
yeah.
of the mud, because then your mud truck sinks down into a hole, starts spinning, the trailer pushes out, trailer goes down into the hole, the truck pulls it out.
Could you
Like you hit a
imagine
little sip.
a 6-wheel drive truck and trailer?
Yeah.
or 7?
Yeah, I can.
Each of them making 1,800 horsepower an axle?
Well, it's 1,800 horsepower for all three axles.
Oh, yeah, so it's 600 horsepower an axle. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah, it's 6.
And that's why, you're the first non-farmer we've had on the podcast. But what you're aiming towards and striving towards fits so well in agriculture. It needs to be discussed, and it needs to be, in my mind, on this podcast where we're talking about agriculture. Just because you're not making an air cart or a tractor or have planted a crop doesn't mean what you're aiming towards and striving towards isn't going to be a major part of farming in the future.
No, and I really, really hope that there is some Canadian farmer out there that hears about this idea and sees what we're doing with the trucks and realizes that this applies to tractors, and I hope they beat us to the punch because I want to see this in farming. I think this makes so much sense for tractors and the farming industry that I'll build the trucks, but I hope somebody else steals our idea and builds the farm equipment.
Yeah.
If not, I'll come back on this podcast.
You're not going to go after somebody if they start this and they say stealing Edison's ideas. You're going to give
won't.
them a pat on the back instead of a cease and desist.
Yes, I hope to God somebody does that, because if they do that and they name their company Westinghouse Farm Equipment or something like that, Westinghouse Equipment stealing Edison's idea. Oh my God, you know how funny that would be to just take the joke, because the story on that one is okay, Thomas Edison took Nikola and then took that ideas, and then he ran with that ideas, and then Westinghouse came over, took Edison's idea, and then took Westinghouse Electric, and Westinghouse basically won at the end of the day, I think. It's so somebody took Westinghouse and named their company Westinghouse Farm Equipment. Oh, that'd be so perfect.
Yes.
I would respect that so much.
And that's one thing back to the old Laterno scraper. We have an old Laterno scraper. It was used to build Fort Beck Dam we bought it from one of the owners that told me the story. It was used to build Fort Peck Dam in Montana. That old Laterno we still use every year. It's about 6 or 7 yards, not a big one, but it's made in the 30s. It's going to be 100 years old, and somebody's converted it from cable to hydraulic, but it still moves a pile of dirt, and it's tough as nails. It's got some old airplane tires on it. They're massive. They're like 87-ply tires. They're up there. Dad's like, oh, we're going to have to change the tires. And the one neighbor come over and he said, nah, I borrowed this thing 25 years ago. The tires look like that then. It's fine. there's still 30 more layers of cords to go through.
Yeah. They were good. Laterno made some good stuff. Ain't no denying that.
And made to last forever. I mean, it's going to be 100 years old and half wore out. So it's got another 100 years in it. And used on something cool like Fort Peck Dam, which is a massive earth-moving project.
Yeah, it's like, it's just, somebody needs to start doing it. I'm trying to do that where I bring back the trucks that are built well, built reliably. Somebody needs to do it in earth moving again. Somebody needs to do it in farming. People have had enough of being trapped into this new, like you're being trapped into huge payments where now to buy these new pieces of equipment, buy these new trucks, you're being locked into a constant vicious cycle of payments. All the new things are all 6-7 figures for new iron and new equipment, which means that you can't afford to buy that up front. Now you got to buy that new piece of $1 million equipment, that $500,000 truck, and then they got you by the
short curly ones,
the hex. Yeah, they got you by the short ones. Well, you just bought this $500,000 truck. You're not going to throw out the truck because the turn signal's $400, and then we're going to make sure that you got to come back in a few more years and then buy another $500,000 thing because it's only going to last for 6-7 years, and then it's going to be so worn out and so blown out that you need to buy a new one. And you're like, so now you're going to be just caught in this either vicious cycle of buying expensive parts with expensive repairs that you need to hire a tech. You want to fix that? Oh, you can't fix your own thing. You got to hire our tech for $200 an hour to drive out there, plug in a diagnostic code, flash the code on your new truck just so that you can use the equipment that you already bought and own. That's going to be so expensive that we're either going to get our money off of service calls and parts, or we're going to get the money when you buy the new thing. And then you're going to be locked in either a vicious cycle of not being able to afford to maintain your equipment, or you're going to be locked into a vicious cycle of always having a payment. And then what you find is that the market is so cyclical now that you don't have the stability that you had 30-40 years ago when our grandparents were logging and they were taking timber out of the bush. It was relatively constant. It was relatively stable. Now you don't know what's doing a year to year. Now you have one bad year and the bank comes, matches up everything you own. Oh, you didn't make your payments? Well, we'll take all this. Well, you had that nice shop that you owned. You had that nice piece of land. Well, we're going to take that land and the bank's going to own it and they're going to turn around. And now we're going to do that as a fire sale to some other large corporation, because guess what? The same investors that own all the big, it's the same big venture capital, the big hedge funds, the big investment banks. They own the equipment manufacturers. They own the banks that do the financing. And they own the land holdings company that own the land and own the property and own the buildings and own the shop and own everything else and the thing that you're working on. So either way, they get you on the freaking equipment side of it that you're paying out your ass. Then we do an economic downturn. We buy that thing and they own the large corporations. They own the large logging companies. They own the large mill companies. They own the large farm outfits. And guess what? We want those assets. Looks like there's been a recession in this. We're going to come in with all the money we have from all the repossession. We'll have the bank take it back, and then we'll have the bank that we own sell it to us for pennies on the dollar, and we're the only company that can now buy it. Now we bought all this stuff for pennies on the dollar. Now we jacked up the rate again when things are going well. They get it on either side. They own it. The big banks and the big investors own all three sides, all four sides of the thing. It's a vicious loop that no one can get ahead unless somebody does what we're doing and say, well, we're just going to build a tractor that's not going to break. We're going to build a truck that's hopefully you can fix. Hopefully you can repair a little bit better.
And you know what? I love what you're doing, because on my family's farm, we run a fleet of about 6 tractors. They're not our main tractors. They're basically our haying tractors. So they're only used maybe 3 months out of the year, but they're from the 80s. I've got 2 of them that we've owned since new, and they are extremely high-houred. And compared to a highway truck, they're not high-houred, but one of them is well over 40,000 hours. The other one is creeping up around that 38,000 hours. Like, that is unheard of, and they look like the day they were new. And it just goes to that. They were built well, they were taken care of, and parts weren't relatively expensive to keep them up.
Yep, they were simple, and you didn't need a computer that you needed to hire a technician from that company that only they have the pro code for, or you need to pay a subscription agreement to their software to be able to fix it.
No,
Oh,
and
yeah.
you're exactly right. And really, the only Achilles heel to them really is there's a power shift brain box on them that gives trouble. I carry 2 or 3 spare ones in our inventory just because we lose 1 or 2 a year. They're about $500, but in comparison to what a payment is, that's not even the interest on one. And there's like 20 little wires that hook to it. You change that out, and away you go again. Like
Yep.
it's simple. And they use the what is it, a 5x8 headlight like the highway trucks do. It's just simple. They just work. It's mechanical levers to
Steel
engage
That's
it.
what we
doors
need.
with steel doors with flat glass. You break the glass, you break the glass.
And it's not a
you're-
curved glass that only they make. And then guess what? Oh, well, you know what? That machine's a little too old. We discontinued making that glass anymore. Oh, well, I need that glass. I have this. And you're like, well, I guess you got to buy a new truck. We just discontinued. We're not willing to supply parts. That's how insane it is. They're like, hopefully there's an aftermarket person. It's
Well, I think I've seen
we need
somebody
it. We
with
need it.
them 589, the new biggie, roundy, weirdy looking Peterbilts. They come out with a retrofit kit. You pop out that round glass and you plunk in 2 flat chunks of glass, one on
it
each
looks
side.
so much better. Looks
It-
so much better.
It sharpens them up, and you put the right visor and you flat top them or whatever. And they look cool enough to come down the road. But again,
I got a neighbor who's got a couple of them new 5.8s, and they are a nice truck to drive. I've driven a few of them for him, just help them out. And that hydraulic assist clutch, for somebody that's got arthritis or a bad left knee, that hydraulic assist clutch is nice. It is surprising how nice it is to lift off on that hydraulic assist
Oh.
clutch they have. Not saying I don't mind a heavy clutch. I'm young enough that it doesn't bug me, but I can see how it could be beneficial for somebody who has a little bit of mobility issues.
I could see it. Yeah, I went with the old mechanical linkage clutch. Number 1, it's a lot cheaper. But number 2, I personally like the feeling of feeling that clutch engage. Like if I'm on a steep hill pull and I'm on like a 20% adverse, I'm trying to lift off with a skidder pushing me, or I'm in the mud and I'm truly trying to like feel the way that those that clutch is engaging. I like that mechanical feel that I find I don't have. It's more comfortable, but I also float all my gears. Like I don't
Oh,
clutch when
yeah.
I shift. I just float my gears and I'm going. So I just use it to start and I'm like, okay, it's a little bit harder and I get a little bit better feel starting. And then from there, I don't care about the clutch anymore.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
The only time I touched the clutch when I was shifting gears is when I did my test for my 1A.
yeah,
After that, the only time I touch the clutch is to lift off or to stop.
The-
But the nice thing about that clutch in them new 589s, it's a real clutch. It's not that stupid one that comes up through the floor like the Peterbilts have.
no, I don't mind that.
Yeah. That's like the Kenworth style. I like the
Yeah,
Kenworth style.
hangs
clutch
from
a
the
lot more.
dash.
Yeah.
It's way
Yeah.
better. Your foot. I actually seen a TikTok video here the other day about it where a guy was complaining about the Peterbilt clutch, and then he got into an old International. And see this one, my foot can't slip off it. I'm like, you know what? You got a valid point. That
Yeah,
clutch in
my
them
foot has
older
slipped off
Peterbilt
a
models.
Peterbilt clutch before. It's not. I don't like that Peterbilt 389,
And
379 clutch.
that's one thing. I'm surprised I haven't come across it. Nobody's made a kit changing that out with linkages to make it like everybody else that has a clutch.
You kind of get used to
Oh,
it. I got to find
you do, but
688, 788. Oh, what the hell? 88 Ford Hood one. What the hell number?
388.
See,
88.
yeah.
I'm so confused. Peterbilt and their numbers got me confused. But I get used to that one. But that's not my main truck. So
I also like this is one of those things where like I am sure my clutch is not comfortable on the truck on the new mechanical ones. It's up pretty high. So it's like I lifted it up pretty high. So you really you got to lift your leg right up in order to push down on it first. But I did it that way because I float my gears. I'm like, I need it for starting. And now like I've driven the Peterbilt and you're like, oh, my left foot doesn't go anywhere comfortable because I got a clutch. But now my clutch is up out of the way. So when I'm cruising down the road and I'm just floating my gears, my clutch is well out of my way of my foot. And I got that leg room to stretch it out without my shins bashing against the clutch pedal. So it's like, it's slightly more inconvenient to engage it. But then when I'm cruising down the road, it's really comfortable. I'm like, okay, I engage my clutch maybe once in every hour.
yeah. Well, and
And
then
you've made those cabs big on your trucks because you just recently had a video and you had your friend Joel sitting in a truck. You're building a truck for him right now. I was fortunate enough to meet you and Joel here back a few months ago when you came through my small town of Mooseman when you got stuck because Manitoba's permit office wasn't open on the weekends. Joel is not a short man by any means. I'm 6 foot tall and he towers over me.
One more complaint, though. The W900 floor. Whoever designed the floor of a Kenworth truck did also not have any legroom. That floor angles upwards. You know, my Internationals and my Peterbilt floors are all flat, but the floor on a W900 angles upwards for no reason. There's my complaint.
Really? I like the angled upward floor.
Oh,
I like that because I like it if my foot's all the way forward when I'm reclined. Having like it acts like that little thing acts more of like a footrest thing.
oh,
Because if you think about it, where your feet are out, if you stretch your legs out all the way, like stretch your legs out all the way right now, and then put your feet flat on the floor. Your
see-
feet don't like if your legs are all the way stretched out, your feet don't go flat. It stretches your tendons. You want an angle for your feet to rest
yeah,
on.
yeah. The
It
other
would maybe
angle.
be better for you, Dallas, if you actually had the Fat Boy day cab
Yeah, I would.
on your truck.
Because
You got a small cab there. I've
I
been
know
in
how to
one.
weld, and I've been tempted to grab the plasma cutter and cut the floor out and have it go the other way.
I think your problem is like on the old cab, you don't have enough room to really recline the seat back. Like you can't
Yep.
move your seat back far enough, which means that now it's not the floor that's like, it's the fact that your seat's not far back
Yep.
enough. Because if you recline your seat back all the way, where you should have that kicker plate is where your feet are comfortable sitting at that 30-degree angle. That's the correct thing. It's not that the angle, like the floor shouldn't be flat. It's way more comfortable to have the floor angled. It's just that your cab isn't far back enough to give a guy
Yep.
that's 6 feet enough leg room.
Yeah, that's why I like my Lone Star. You know, that's a weird looking truck, but man, do I got the
I
seat
don't
all
mind them.
Well, I like it
I
too.
don't mi-
Yeah, I like the retro look, but the seat's all the way back, all the way down, and I got lots of leg room, and I'm happily driving away here.
The gear shift is just weird.
Well, wait, one more question for me on my list of questions. You're pretty massive on social media. You're all your pages, your channels. Was social media always part of the plan when you come up with Edison? Or is it just kind of happen to go at the same time?
No, there was no plan on this. There was no plan when I started social media. There was no, like, I was just a blogger I worked with was making videos, and Shane was making videos. I'm like, I better download TikTok and see what Shane's posting about us on here. And I think I had it for like 6 months before I even made my first video. And then I'm like, oh, you know what? I'm just going to start this company and I'll just show what I'm doing. Like, I'll just show what I'm doing on video. And it's just kind of like, there was no master. I wish I could say that I was clever enough to have some kind of master plan and be like, oh, I'm going to market this and do so. I've just been doing it and showing people what I've been doing, and it seems to work. So I haven't changed it.
Did you verify your TikTok account?
I did. Yeah.
Has that helped with a bunch of the fake accounts?
No, not really.
Okay, good.
A little bit, but because there's so many fake accounts. And like, I reported one yesterday, and it's like Edison Motors reposting it, and I'm like, report it, pretending to be me, and then they're like, no, nothing found on that one. And you're like, they're literally just take every single video I make and then re-upload the video with Edison Motors and my logo in there, other than I guess the blue check mark. But I think the only thing that helps is when people click on it and they see it only has like 400 followers, and you're like, okay, that's probably not the official one.
Well, that's what I find with mine, because I don't have near the following, but I have a few. But I have so many clone accounts on Facebook and TikTok, and they're messaging people.
Oh, Facebook's the worst.
Now they're looking
Facebook
for
is
money because they're just taking it. And then people are following my videos, but they're taking 7 videos every day, 7 to 8, 10 videos a day from the last 4 years and uploading them today. So, I mean, the one video I watched of myself on my fake account today, we're washing our semis in our yard. Well, it's minus 24 today. We're not washing anything outdoors. Because people are like, how are you washing today? We're not. You're not on the right freaking Dallas LeDuc's account. Tell that guy to F off. And I've like you, I've reported him over and over and
Heck
over.
off.
Heck off. Yeah, and get off my, because sometimes I like when some of the partners that have supported me over the years gets more views on videos like for Mandanko and Dutch and Caltech trailers and stuff like that. I like when them guys get their videos out there again, but I also don't like having all of my 1,200 videos stolen and reposted under, and especially if they're a monetized account, because mine aren't. Somebody might get paid for my work, and that really sucks for somebody stealing my work and getting paid
Oh
for
my
it.
God, that's so annoying because it's like you can't monetize on TikTok and these things from Canada, but then these scammers will take the videos, monetize them in the US, and then get like monetized off my videos that I'm not even getting paid for. Like that's
Yes. TikTok, get this together. We need to get Canadian content creators need to get monetized. We work hard. And not to mention, they're advertising in our videos. Between the videos, there's advertisements. When you open up TikTok, you have to watch the stupid Pringles commercial or whatever goes on to begin with.
Oh man, or like now, have you seen that there was a new one that came out that's another annoying one? Someone took one of my videos where I was talking about one of my old, I forget what I was even talking about, but they made a shoe commercial with AI. And I saw my video and it's like me talking, and my voice has totally changed into the AI, but it's my face showing you like, I sure love this shoe. This is the greatest shoe I've ever had. Please buy a shoe from the. I'm like, that's my face. That's my video. And you're like, just a different voice of me talking with some AI thing. And you're like, that's awful. Like somebody's literally just taking my face, making an AI ad, pretending to be me. And I got so mad. I found the shoe company. I made like a fake lawyer. I used like AI, ChatGPT, make this sound like it's coming from a legal firm, and I'll send them a cease and desist. And like, that's the first cease and desist I think I ever sent. It'd be like, you're a company, and they're like, oh, we'll take it down. We're so sorry. We hired a company to make an ad for us. And that company that they hired to make an ad, I didn't realize they would use your face without your permission. And you're like, man, that's just so crappy. It's like you can't trust anything anymore online, and it's like I don't like
Have
this
you
AI
seen
thing.
this face? Nobody's stealing this to advertise nothing. But I know you gave us more than you planned on, Chace. I know we got to let you roll here. I'd love to keep you for another half an hour. It's been awesome. But I know you got other commitments, and the last thing I want you to do is lose a deal or something like that where you need to go to something. But do you have your
It's
own
just a late night engineering one.
Oh, yeah. But do you have your own podcast you're on?
We do an Edison podcast on our YouTube.
Oh, okay. So go to Chace's Edison podcast on his YouTube channel. I know, I'm glad I'm listening.
Me
Yeah,
too.
yeah. Thanks, and thanks for having me on. This is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed just sitting down and BSing and doing some real time problem solving. And
Well, and it's a little bit different than what you normally talk about, I would assume, especially being the agriculture side. But like I said before, what you're making, well, like you said, you're going to drive by a farm someday and go, hey, we built that truck 30 years ago, and there it is hauling a water tank or a load of bales or, still going. And that's what I hope to see.
And I really hope too to see it's like being able to like, I want to see somebody take this and put it in a tractor. I
Yep.
really want to see that. I hope that we see somebody somewhere along the lines, and then they come out and they're like, hey, oh, yeah, I had this thing. I heard you on Bunny Hug podcast, and I decided to build a tractor. And that's like, I hope that we see that kind of thing. And it's, I like doing these. I like doing these podcasts because it gives me like, when you start talking about the idea we're working on, because we kind of stay in spend a lot of time in the office, and I'm going to have another meeting with the engineers and discuss things. And we debate around, okay, the 9-liter versus the 10-liter versus the 15-liter, and we discuss it. So being able to tell people what we're working on is kind of a nice way to be able to have some brainstorming sessions. And like, I think it made some good progress on this podcast of like trying to rationalize this X15 and this little backdoor into the loophole thing. And like,
well, there
it's
is
nice
no
for me.
placement for displacement.
Yep.
That is one thing I've been taught.
Yeah. And it's way different now that you're at Golden. You're not living in your parents' basements anymore. So it must be so much. You don't have to cook anymore, though.
Oh, no, my parents sold their house, and they moved onto the property here now. I moved up to Golden. My parents sold the house, and we're like, nope, we're all in. We're just going to sell our house, and we're going to move up there to Golden with you. And we'll get another cabin. We'll just put that on the property. We're at the shop. And so
it's good. You're still used to your home cooked cooking, and then that's even better.
yeah, I still don't have to learn to cook for myself. So we're
Yeah.
good.
That's great.
All right, but I got to run here.
Okay.
Tyler, Dallas, this has been absolutely fantastic.
No.
Thanks for having me on.
Chase,
Yeah.
I think it was awesome. Tyler, thank you very much for lining
Thank
all
you.
this up. This has been amazing.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Bunny Hug Farmers podcast, everybody. Hi, everybody. It's Tyler Janin here. I want to thank you for listening to the Bunny Hug Farmers podcast. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us at bunnyhugfarmers@outlook.com. Once again, thanks for listening to the Bunny Hug Farmers podcast.